Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm Jaquan,
I'm Jasmine.
and welcome to the Film
Film
Spill.
spill. So, today, guys, we're going to be reviewing the series The Last Dance. This is a documentary, and here is the summary. The 10-part docu-series follows the Jordan timeline from when he was an emerging star on his high school team to becoming a worldwide marketing force and cultural figure.
Many of you may not know I am a huge basketball fan. I love basketball. I definitely had some basketball aspirations growing up. But anyway, just seeing how amazing this documentary was. I've watched many docu-series about sports legends. And, I will always say, oh, this was cool to know, or this was dope. But I never would say I will watch it again, or I never would quote it or talk about it. This was one of those series that I can definitely say it stuck with me. Many of us know Michael Jordan. If you don't know Michael Jordan, he is considered to be the greatest of all time, the GOAT. However, I am a LeBron fan, but I would definitely say Jordan is the GOAT. So yeah, let's get into my rating with this series. I gave this series a 5, which I say is very hard for me to give something a 5 out of 5. Especially when I did have a few cons, but they were all personal cons. So let's get into my pros and my cons. So here is my first pro. Just learning how competitive Michael was. We talked about how even as an old man, like, me just seeing the things that he's been doing now, being an owner of the Charlotte Hornets. But I remember last year they did the 75 best players in NBA history, and they kind of put him in the 75 list. Of course, he's one of the 75. There's this meme going around because in the back locker room it was a bunch of old players. So you had Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, like LeBron, all these old players. And basically, Jordan is talking to Magic Johnson, and he just like, put your shoes on, let's play right now. And they're like old men, but he's still just so competitive. But seeing how competitive he was, in this series, it was just different. When they talked about how he was golfing, he just took everything very, very serious. Like, it was like crazy. Even when we were seeing them, they was playing like some games with quarters or something. It was just on a different level, but he backed it up, specifically with basketball. He backed it up. My next pro was just seeing him come from humble beginnings. We talk a lot about these great stars. It's like, man, they grew up poor. They grew up, not having that much. He was another player, whereas like he wasn't considered coming out of high school, or like it was a lot of stuff that he had to kind of go through. So he definitely came from humble beginnings. A lot of people don't know that he was cut from his high school team. So he didn't just start out great and he was just great his whole life. Like, he went through a lot of trials and tribulations. My next pro, the infamous flu game, but really it was food poisoning. But how he was able to play through that, like, that was just crazy. The man was sick, very, very sick, and he still played a game and they won. Food poisoning, flu, regardless. Like, I am on the toilet, I am in the bed, I am not on no court playing for 48 minutes. Like, that's just a different level. Once again, he's just that competitive. My next pro was how important everyone played the role on their team. Like, I talked so much about that. Like, even though Jordan was the star player, he was not able to do it by himself. They talked about how he was getting beat up in the early 80s when he first got into Chicago, when he was too small, how he was being injured a lot, how he was getting beat up by the Detroit Pistons. It took him a while. Then when they started getting the right pieces around him, everyone understood their roles, it started to become easier and easier on him. So I really like that. I always talk about how Dennis Rodman, he did not care about points. But he's gonna get his rebound though. He gonna make sure you get that rebound. Speaking of Dennis Rodman, my next pro was how crazy Dennis Rodman was. Figuring out how they said he once skipped a practice during the NBA Finals to appear in the WCW, which is crazy, as well as the infamous 48-hour Las Vegas trip during the 1998 NBA Finals, when he basically just goes missing for 2 days, and they're literally in the middle of a final game. Like, he's gone. Just to go on this binger, and he just partying and everything. He was just wow. I really enjoyed the parade scene when Steve Kerr is talking about taking the game-winning shot that he made when they won the finals in '97, and he jokes about having to bail MJ out again. I thought that was funny. My next pro is I like how they filmed so much during that time. Like, it's crazy that they were literally filming so much. Like, when we look at all the scenes and stuff they had, like in the back in the locker room, and him with his parents, it's like it was so much filming, which was like crazy, but it was dope because we was able to see it. And my last pro is being able to see Kobe again, the great Kobe Bryant. He was one of the people that they had interviewing, talking about how great Michael Jordan was and how his success had impacted his life, and how Kobe mirrored his game after MJ. So it was really dope seeing Kobe again. All right, so here are my cons. Finding out how underpaid Scottie Pippen was. That was just crazy, right? They were saying how he was second in assists, and how he was second or first in points. And, he had all these great stats. Yeah, he was like 121st or 122nd in salary, which is just wow how they were doing that to this man, which is crazy, which is why I understood he was doing some of the things he was doing towards the end of his career. Like, man, I don't want to play. Like, y'all have to pay me or I'm gone. My next con, which is probably one of the biggest cons, once again, it's personal, how Jerry Krause, right, the general manager, how he just literally wanted so much power and recognition. Like, if it wasn't for us, like, it's like, I get it, you did play a role, but it's like there's been many of time frames where general managers, they draft great talent, but that don't mean those talents show up. They can be bust. At the end of the day, the players have to play. You can pick somebody and be like, yeah, you was great in college, you're gonna be great, and I pick you, and then it'd be a bust, right? Then they're not gonna say the general manager, they're gonna say, oh, it's the player fault, he was a bust. But he wanted so much recognition, like, yeah, if it wasn't for us. And he was really the reason why they ended up blowing up the team, right? The Last Dance, because he wanted Phil Jackson out. He just wanted to rebuild something that he thought he can do. And as we know, they never won a championship ever since then. How sad it was when Michael found out that his dad was killed, and how we talked about how we were like connected to it a little bit because we have ties to Lumberton, which I feel like where they say his dad was killed there. So that was kind of strange figuring out that his dad was killed in a place that I've been around and I've been in. So, that was kind of sad, and how he really took it, how it was hard on him. That was really hard for me to see as well. And my last con was when we talked about how they used to hound Michael with questions. Like, it was just so overwhelming, which is why I feel like another reason why he just wanted out. Like, they literally hound this dude with so many questions every game. Like, are you going to retire? Like, are you coming back? Just all this other stuff. When they talk about the gambling thing, like, well, are you gambling? Is there problems? Like, so much, man. There was constantly this man facing. It's like he just never could rest. So those are my pros and my cons. I recommend you guys watching this series. It was really dope.
Okay, guys, I give this series a 4 out of 5. I don't really care for anything sports related, really, and I didn't really know much about Michael Jordan, but I really enjoyed this docu-series. I really liked how he motivated himself. Anytime someone challenged him or made him feel some type of way, or like told him what he couldn't do, he took it as a personal challenge to work harder and be better. It was crazy to see how competitive he was, like you were saying earlier, how he was in the back with his security guards just betting on different games and stuff. He just always was just like very competitive. I love seeing the support of his parents, especially his dad. And I remember telling my husband, like, it's normal for moms to go to their children's sporting events and stuff like that, but to see his dad there all the time and like being present and active, that was very beautiful to see, because that is very rare, especially like a black dad. But that was cool to see, like, and seeing his dad in the locker room, in the stands, even going to the casino with him. I feel like most men will love that type of relationship with their father, so that was really beautiful. Like he said, it was sad when his dad was murdered, and it was crazy because he was sleepy, so he pulled over to take a nap, and that's just really crazy. And like he said, it was close to a city where we used to live, so that was just crazy. And then Jordan, he was in his bag. Like, if you didn't know, he's the richest athlete, and during his career he worked with like Nike, Gatorade, McDonald's, Wheaties, and a bunch of more companies, so he was getting to his money. But it was just interesting overall, just learning so much about him, seeing how hard he worked and things like that. But overall, whether you like sports or not, I would definitely recommend you watch this series, and I give it a 4 out of 5.
Just like always, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. You guys have a good one.